Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Your Uncle Jim is back with Kidney Stories 2 tonight. I know it's been a long layoff, but we're here. Hey, I got something extra special for you tonight. Dr. Blake Shusterman is here, the cooking doctor. So let's talk a little bit about Doc. Dr. Blake Shusterman is president and physician partner at Carolina Nephrology, a 22 provider practice in Greenville, South Carolina. He is the creator and host of the Cooking Doc, his website, www.thecookingdoc.co, and author of the book, The Cooking Doc's Kidney Healthy Cooking, a modern 10-day step guide to preventing and managing kidney disease. And there's the book. He's a board-certified nephrologist. He serves as a medical director at multiple dialysis units. He's also a clinical assistant professor at USC School of Medicine in Greenville and oversees the medical student nephrology rotations. In the past, he has served on the medical advisory board for U.S. Renal Care, and currently he is a board member of the Carolina Kidney Alliance. He is passionate about home dialysis, patient education, and the importance of diet in the management of chronic kidney disease. His interest in diet and kidney disease led him to a role as an ambassador for the American Kidney Fund's Kidney Kitchen. Dr. Shusterman earned his medical degree from The Ohio State University and went on to complete his internal medicine residency and nephrology fellowship at the University of Virginia, where he served as chief fellow. He holds a BA in anthropology from Tufts University. Our guy is pretty smart. Quote, "I love food. I love eating it, making it, sharing it, and eating it again as leftovers. In my family, many of our daily decisions revolve around food. We plan day trips, vacations, and night excursions around what foods we wish to experience. We spend lots of time, sometimes too much time, according to my wife, identifying which restaurants we want to go to and what things we need to buy at the grocery store to prepare our meals. To my family, food is not only sacred, but is also downright fun. To me, it is a blended art. It is a beautiful blend of art and science. During my years of practice, I have come to realize that many of my patients and their families live equally food-focused lives. So I understand the furious looks I get from my patients when I tell them to give up their favorite foods. Many of you may be in the same position, hearing similar pleas from your doctor advising you to stop eating your favorite foods because they're damaging your kidneys, making your diabetes more difficult to control, or preventing you from losing weight. Thus was born the Kidney Doc. Can you imagine having your doctor right next to you in your kitchen, telling you what delicious food you need to try? Well, that's me. I won't tell you what tasty foods you need to give up. Instead, I'll help you find creative ways to use new ingredients, and together we'll make them taste amazing. We will have special guests outing to your favorite restaurants, entertaining cooking videos featuring fresh and healthy ingredients, all cooked up by a doctor. During our training as doctors, we don't receive a lot of education on nutrition and diet. So often this translates into specialists that can give generic advice like eat a healthier diet, eat less food, eat a low sodium. As a kidney patient, I've heard all this, but I can tell patients exactly how to make this happen. I am hopeful that I can inspire a new generation of doctors that know how to provide recipes, cooking lessons, and practical advice to their patients. Join me and let's hashtag change your buds. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Cooking Doc is with us tonight. Doc, how are you?
Hi, Jim. It's great to be here. Thank you for that fabulous introduction.
Oh, well, it's something worthy of my good buddy. So I just want to know up front, did I describe your credentials correctly? Do I have all your medical credentials accurately stated?
All perfect. You got it.
I understand that one of your hobbies that plays into your day-to-day nephrology practice concerns food. Can you describe for us how that works? What is that all about?
Sure. So, first of all, hi, everybody out there. Jim got everything right. I'm a nephrologist in Greenville, South Carolina. And I am also, as you see on the screen there, the cooking doc. And so, one of the things that I love to do is I love to cook. And I've spent the last 10 years figuring out how food impacts kidney health and using my love of cooking and my love of food to create recipes and inspire my patients to eat healthier food, and food that can help them manage their kidney disease, whether they're at the beginning stages of kidney disease or towards the end of stages of kidney disease and even on dialysis. And so, as somebody who loves to cook and loves to eat, it's one of the things that is great for me is to share this knowledge and this love with all the people that I see in the office.
Great. Tell us the story, Doc. How did you connect your cooking hobby with your nephrology practice? How did that happen?
So, sure. So, I kind of love to tell a couple of stories. And one starts with the first day that I was working as a nephrologist in South Carolina. And if I'm speaking to a lot of people here who have kidney disease, especially if you're on dialysis, probably some of this will ring true. My first day, I went into a dialysis center, and as I was getting the tour, I ended up in the lobby. And in the lobby, I noticed that there were these two vending machines. And on one side, there was soda, so Coke, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, all these high sugar drinks. And on the other side was the snack machine with salty snacks, potato chips, Cheetos, Doritos. Then there was Milky Ways and M&Ms, all these high sugar snacks. So this was all going on in the lobby. And then if you go into the dialysis center, you see doctors and dietitians all walking down the rows of people who are on dialysis, encouraging them to, cut out the salt in their diet or eat better to protect their diabetes so their sugars get lower. And meanwhile, we were teaching them this inside the clinic and then setting this terrible example right in the lobby there. And I just couldn't get over that that dichotomy, the fact that we were supposed to be the ones that were providing a good example, and we absolutely were not. So kind of from day one there, I was a little bit focused on food and health. And then over the course of the next 5 to 7 years, I kept getting the same stories from people. Either they didn't know exactly how food would affect their kidneys, and so they didn't know exactly what to eat. They didn't know how to eat in a way that was good for their diabetes and good for their kidney disease. And they didn't know how to make food taste good that was also good for their health. And so I just kept hearing these things over and over and over again. And in the course of a 15-minute appointment, I don't have time to address any of those issues. And I would leave people hanging with that kind of generic advice that you talked about earlier. And so from that, I kind of decided that we were going to come up with a way to reach out to people who have kidney disease and reach out to my patients in a different way. And so we started the Cooking Doc, which was kind of an internet alter ego where I could host a cooking show and teach people how to cook and teach people things, give them knowledge about what things are good for their kidneys and how to incorporate that into their daily life.
Okay. Doc, I know that a large part of your focus, one of the continuing themes that I've seen in your videos and through your book, is that you try to teach patients to eat healthy foods that are good for their kidneys, their diabetes, their blood pressures, foods that are good for them. How do you do that? How did you go about doing that?
So, do you mean how do I go about teaching them, or how do I go about figuring out which things?
A little bit of both.
Okay, sure. So, at first, I really didn't know how food affected the kidneys, and I tell this story in the book, and early on in my career, after I was practicing about 3 years, I had somebody in to see me who had early stage kidney disease. What it was, if you're familiar with the stages of kidney disease, it was stage 3A. And she was really interested in figuring out what foods were going to protect her kidneys and how to eat in a way so that she didn't develop stage 4 and then stage 5 kidney disease. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of knowledge about what to tell her. So basically, I told her to just eat a low sodium diet. That was all that I told her. And she fired me. She did not like that information that I gave her because it was generic and it was not enough. And it was because I didn't know what to tell her. And so over the course of the next couple of years after that, I really dug into the research and the data behind food and how it impacts kidney health. And I found a wealth of information about the specific types of eating patterns that can benefit the kidney health over the long run. And so I initially started sharing that through YouTube videos and blog posts, and then kind of transition that to my new book where I put it all in there so somebody can have it right at their fingertips.
Okay. I've noticed another theme in the things that you talk about and the things that you reference, that there's a balance between proper nutrition for kidney patients and taste. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you achieve that balance?
So the thing that I found out early on is that if you tell somebody to change their diet in a way to help their kidneys, but you don't make that food taste good, you are basically going to fail, because a diet that's focused on bland and tasteless food is not going to win any contests. It's not going to win any people over very easily, and it's not going to win over their families as well when people are all trying to transition to a kidney healthier diet. So we kind of focus on two things as we're kind of getting that balance between food that's good for you and food that is tastes good. So the first is we have to focus on changing your taste buds just a little bit. I call it changing your buds. But people who have grown up with a lot of really salty and fatty and sweet foods may have difficulty at the beginning transitioning into foods that don't fit into those categories because their taste buds are so used to those things. And so over the course of weeks to months to years, I encourage people to slowly incorporate foods that are a little bit healthier and a little less salty and a little less sweet. And over the course of time, the taste buds change a little bit. So you come to appreciate and taste those foods. But we're not making bland foods. We're making foods that are loaded with things like fresh herbs and new spices and cooked in a technique that maybe brings out the natural flavors of the food. So it's focusing away from the salt, fat, and sweet flavors and into a kind of a fresh herbs, acid, spices, different flavors that won't cause the same health problems as the traditional ones.
Doc, a couple of weeks back, I had some medical nutrition therapists on the show to talk to us. Can you talk about the relationship between a kidney doctor and a dietitian?
So I don't think I could be as successful as I am as a doctor without the help of dietitians. And if I had my way, everybody who sees a nephrologist who has kidney problems would also be able to see a dietitian, because dietitians can dig down deep into somebody's daily eating habits. They can help craft specific plans for each specific person. Somebody may have dietary preferences related to their background. Maybe it's Indian food, or maybe it's Mexican food, or maybe it's Chinese food. And so using somebody's individual tastes to develop a specific dietary plan for their kidney disease is something that really requires the expert of a dietitian. The other thing that's important, and really, I absolutely love dietitians. I have one that works in my office now that we hired about 6 months ago, and it really has been practice changing. But everybody with kidney disease requires kind of their own specific diet sometimes. So somebody with stage 3 kidney disease requires a different diet than somebody with stage 5 kidney disease. And somebody with stage 5 kidney disease requires a different diet than somebody who's on hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis. And so having somebody who can really focus on individual dietary needs and spend more time with somebody with kidney disease is so important, because I don't have the time to do it. And the dietitians, not only do they have the time, but they're also way better trained than I am to do that. So I incorporate them every step of the way if I can.
Doc, I'm a newbie. I'm the kind of guy that not only can I cook, I can barely warm things up. What kind of utensil should I have in order to have a well-equipped kitchen so I can follow the plans in your cooking doctor book?
All right, Jim. So what do you know how to cook?
I make chicken soup once in a while. It tastes bad. I can warm up water. I can stick anything in the microwave. That kind of stuff. Simple,
Got it.
very simple stuff. Spaghetti.
The simple stuff. I think that you don't need a lot of utensils in order to stock your kitchen to be able to make a lot of the recipes in my book, and just to really transition into more of a healthy eating pattern. So start with a knife. You need a knife that can chop vegetables. You need a cutting board. You need a couple of saute pans, and really you can get some very inexpensive, start with inexpensive non-stick saute pans that you can get really anywhere. So a saute pan is kind of the flat pan that you can put vegetables in or meat that will cook it in a little oil. You need to have a bigger pot so you can make rice or pasta or soup. And then you need a baking sheet for your oven, if you have an oven, because that'll give you a mechanism to bake vegetables and broil vegetables and roast vegetables and bake fish and bake chicken, things that are a little bit healthier ways to cook food than putting them in a deep fryer or frying them over the stove. And so if you start there, then you add a couple of little things like a spatula, maybe a pair of tongs, and really, if you have those things, you can make pretty much any food that is in the book.
Okay. Shameless plug time. What is your relationship with the American Kidney Fund and the Kidney Kitchen?
So about a year ago, I started a partnership with the American Kidney Fund. So the American Kidney Fund is a great organization that provides lots of information and support for people with kidney disease. And they have a fabulous website called the Kidney Kitchen. And the Kidney Kitchen has recipes and videos really for all stages of kidney disease. And I act as a contributor to their recipe collection. And I've created some videos for their site. And I love the work that they do. And I think, through our partnership, the things that I believe in can reach a wider variety and a bigger audience of people.
Okay. Down to business, Doc. Please tell us how the Cooking Doc came into existence.
So the Cooking Doc is my alter ego online. I wanted to, it initially started, actually, I'll go back a little bit. So I started a YouTube show called Cooking with Carolina Nephrology. Carolina Nephrology is the practice that I work with in Greenville. And it was dedicated initially to people just with kidney disease, and it's a YouTube show. So I would cook food, low potassium food, maybe low protein food, or if we're looking at a dialysis patient, a higher protein meals. And so the idea initially was just to reach out to people with kidney disease as a a fun kind of cooking channel for people with kidney disease. And so Cooking with Carolina Nephrology, then over the course of the last couple of years, has transitioned into the cooking doc, because I wanted to reach a broader range of people, to encourage everybody to eat healthy and to encourage everybody to make healthy food taste good. And so whether you have kidney disease, or whether you're at risk for kidney disease, meaning you have high blood pressure or diabetes or family history of kidney disease, or even if you want to just change your eating habits in a way to better manage your health, that's where the cooking doc came from. And it's kind of just a catchy slogan and a way to reach people who are looking to transform the way they eat and make healthier and better tasting food at home.
Okay, and the cooking doc also has a website, correct? www.thecookingdoc.co. There's no M on the end of the co, correct?
No matter how hard I tried, Jim, I couldn't get .com. I couldn't get .com. I don't know why. It was very hard. So it's just .co, correct?
Okay. I was looking at the sections on the website. You have an email list, blogs, you have new recipes, you have an about section, you have recipe videos, you have educational videos. I wanted to ask specifically about the blogs. I noticed that you write about things like the top healthy food trends of 2021, looking forward to a better 2021. How do you come up with the subjects that you write about in your blog?
So a lot of it is really what's on my mind, honestly, and what I think people are interested in at the time. So as we were going from 2020, those few things that you mentioned from 2020 to 2021, I know that last year was such a rough year for all of us, really. And so I wanted to just make a shift away from that year to a new year, and really set it off on a good tone, and looking for ways to make 2021, as long as COVID keeps going away, better than 2020. But a lot of it is what's on my mind, or what sometimes I'll write about what people ask me, either in an email or on Instagram or Facebook, because I know there's a lot of questions out there about how to eat healthy and what's good for your kidneys. So the blog's oftentimes focused around those things. And then once a month, or I try to get a recipe in there. I used to do that a little more often, but I haven't had time recently. But I like to get a recipe or a recipe video in there once a month, with a blog post kind of explaining how that specific recipe goes into a kidney healthy diet, or goes into a healthy diet. And so I'm always looking for suggestions or requests for recipes to spruce up or create.
I was gonna ask you about that. Your section about recipes is striking, and I noticed that there are tons of them on your website. How often do you add new ones?
Well, in the past, I had adding them more often. Over the course of the last year and a half, I'd had most of my recipes that I had been focused on, I stuck in the book. So I haven't, and then those are slowly coming onto the website about once a month or so. But I try to get a recipe out at least once a month. And then in my weekly newsletter, we try to have links to 2 or 3 recipes, either on the website or something from the Kidney Kitchen that can be good for people with kidney disease.
And you can subscribe to the newsletter on the website as well, Doc?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you just go right to the website, and it's just one of those pop-ups that'll ask you for your name and email address. And if you do sign up, you can download the first chapter of the book for free, and it'll give you an idea of kind of what the book is about, if you're interested.
Okay. I noticed also that you have a recipe video section. I was particularly intrigued by your breakfast section and the no sugar French toast. Can you tell us a little bit about how you make a recipe video and what you're trying to show people in that type of video?
So what I'm trying, when I make the recipe video, I try to focus on how can you incorporate these specific foods and these cooking techniques into your diet. So, with the French toast that you mentioned, so French toast is can often be pretty unhealthy. So people make it with really thick slices of white bread and whole milk and cream, and then sugar on top. And so pretty easily that French toast breakfast can be raise your sugar up if you have diabetes, or help you kind of, or maybe detrimental in your goal to lose weight. So what I try to do in those videos is come up with recipes that will help people oftentimes take foods that are unhealthy and make them a little healthier, make them fit into a diabetic diet or a kidney friendly diet, and make sure that I talk about tips that also make that food taste really good. Because like I said before, if I'm making a no sugar French toast recipe that tastes like a piece of bread that doesn't have any sugar in it and it doesn't have any flavor, then it's worthless. Nobody wants that. Right. And so, I make most of the food in my kitchen. Before the pandemic started, I had a video crew. Uh-oh. You
Are you there, Doc? Go ahead. You're all right.
I'm here. Okay. So before the pandemic, I would have a video crew come to my house, a couple people, and set it up and video record me, and then they would take the footage and cut it into a video. But because I don't have anybody in my house because of COVID, I've become also the cameraman and the lighting person. And I bought the Final Cut Pro for my computer, so I've learned to cut the videos before they go onto YouTube. So I've developed a new skill because of the pandemic.
Okay. The other type of video that you make are educational videos, and I was particularly intrigued by some of the topics. 5 tips to lower salt in your diet. Top 10 tips on coffee. I can't think of a more controversial subject for PKD patients like me than what's going on with coffee these days. Oh, is chocolate healthy? Can you talk about how you come up with the educational videos and why the particular topics that you select are so important?
So when I'm seeing somebody in my office, we have 15 minutes, and there are certain things that get asked kind of over and over and over again. Things like, can I have a cup of coffee? And how much cup of coffee can I have? And is one type of salt better than another type of salt? And is cranberry juice going to help my kidneys? And so topics, these same topics come up over and over and over again. I may see 20 people a day in my office. And so over the course of, a year, it's hundreds and hundreds of people. And the same themes of questions come up when I'm seeing them. And so I try to take those recurrent questions and turn them into videos. So it's right there that people can access. Now, the other thing, and this is interesting, is that I often am fighting with an internet full of misinformation. So I try also to pick topics sometimes that are people are misinformed on the internet, and try to challenge those viewpoints. And sometimes that's kind of controversial, and I get some hate mail sometimes because people don't like the things that I say. But I think it's really important to try to counter that misinformation that is all over the place.
Good. All right. Shameless plug time, part 2. Okay. All right. Once again, let's get this on the screen, Jim. Here is the doctor's book, The Cooking Doc's Kidney Health Cooking, a modern 10-step guide to preventing and managing kidney disease. If I wanted to buy this book, Doc, where would I go to buy it? How could I purchase it?
So there are 2 ways to get the book. The electronic copy, if you just want something to download to your Kindle or to your computer as a PDF, you can buy that on my website, thecookingdoc.co. But if you want the paperback book, which is really a beautiful book, it's got lots of pictures and charts and information in it, then you can get that on Amazon.
Okay. And I noticed that the book contains recipes, motivational stories, the latest science, and something you refer to as the 10 steps for kidney patients. That's what I want to ask you a little bit about in some detail, the 10 steps. The first step that you mentioned is understanding your kidneys. What are the main points that you want kidney patients to understand about their kidneys? Why is it important they know their numbers, and why are PKD patients different?
So the thing about kidneys is that most people have two kidneys about the size of a fist, and they sit beneath your ribs in your back. And the kidneys do two main things, and then a lot of little things. But the two main things that they do is they get rid of extra fluid. So if the kidneys know exactly how much fluid that your body needs to hold on to, and exactly how much fluid they need to get rid of in the urine. These are normal, healthy, perfectly working kidneys. And then they also get rid of waste products, and the waste products are things that are come from the food you eat that's broken down into waste products, and then also from waste products from the normal daily cycle of how your body works. New cells are formed in the body every day, and old cells break down, and that waste has to go somewhere. And so the kidneys, their job is to get rid of that in the urine. The kidneys do things like they manage the electrolytes, they manage your blood pressure, they help make red blood cells. So the kidneys have a ton of different functions in the body, and they really don't get as much love as other organs. But the kidneys are so important. And one of the things that as we're talking about the kidneys, we're looking also at knowing your numbers, and I really focus on that. You mentioned that. I focus on that in the chapter, because it's important for everybody to know how well their kidneys are functioning if you have kidney disease, because saying you have kidney disease doesn't tell your doctor anything, and it really doesn't help guide you as far as what you need to know. So you can have stage 3, stage 4, stage 5 kidney disease. You want to know how well your kidneys are filtering with a number called the glomerular filtration rate. And so I encourage everybody to write those things down and keep them with them so they know exactly where they are in the course of their kidney disease. And then you mentioned polycystic kidney disease, Jim. So, the one big thing that differs from polycystic kidney disease to the other to the other types of kidney disease is we often tell people with polycystic kidney disease that they need to drink extra water to prevent those cysts from continuing to grow. And so I do encourage the people that I see who have polycystic kidney disease to try to consume a lot of water during the day.
Okay, that leads me to the next point that you make in your book: choosing beverages wisely. Why is this important? What kinds of things should we drink? What kinds of things should we avoid? Why is choosing your beverages wisely so important?
So, the focus oftentimes when people come and see me in the office, and this is one of those myths that gets me into trouble sometimes when I talk about it, is everybody wants to focus on, am I drinking enough water? Do I get enough fluid in? Am I staying hydrated? And besides people with polycystic kidney disease who have to drink that extra water, most people get plenty of fluid in, unless you're sick or out in the heat. Most people get plenty of fluid in during the course of the day through the water that they drink and through the water that's in the food that they eat. So I try to tell people that let's not necessarily focus on how much you're drinking in a day, because almost everybody gets enough, but focus on what you're drinking. So people don't reach for a glass of water often. Instead, they'll reach for a soda, or in South Carolina, they reach for sweet tea. And those drinks are very high calorie drinks, high sugar drinks, and a high sugar diet puts you at risk for things like obesity and high blood pressure and even kidney disease itself. And so, focusing what you drink away from things like sugar sweetened beverages and onto things like water and black coffee and unsweet tea really can help manage those things that are risk factors for kidney disease.
What about flavored water? What is your opinion about that?
So I think for the most part, those flavored waters, I mean, if we're looking at like bubbly or LaCroix, are those the kind of flavored waters you're talking about, or like the ones that I, yeah. So those I think those are okay if you're picking ones that are low sugar, not a lot of added sugar. A lot of those are fine, you know. And if you want to make those at home, it's pretty easy. If you start with either plain seltzer water or even plain water, and you can mix it with a little bit of fresh fruit. Or I recommend in the book, some people don't like water, that they put a pitcher of water in their refrigerator and just throw things like slices of cucumber and orange or a little lemon and mint, something to give that water a little flavor. So when you want something sweet and you can't replace that with water because you're one of those people that just thinks water is a flavorless, terrible thing, then you have something in your refrigerator that can give you a little bit of flavor and still keep you hydrated and taste good.
Doc, I always hear these controversies about drinking coffee. And in your book, you have a section entitled Keep the Coffee, How Best to Drink It. Tell us a little bit about the best way to drink coffee.
So I think it's probably my favorite thing to talk to people about when they see me in the office is that most people with kidney disease don't have to give up their coffee. And we keep getting study after study that shows that, for most people, that coffee will not lead to kidney damage. And, unless you have a condition where you have to avoid a lot of caffeine, the coffee actually may be a little bit kidney protective. The issue is that you have to learn to drink it without all the added cream and sugar. So if you're going to Starbucks and you're getting a double frappuccino with whipped cream topping, that's not the coffee drink that's going to help protect your kidneys. So it's got to be black coffee or just mildly sweetened coffee. It's not a little bit of coffee with your cream and sugar. It's maybe a little bit of cream and sugar with your coffee. And if you're focusing on drinking it that way, it can certainly be incorporated into a healthy kidney disease diet.
Are smoothies a good substitute? Are they a good thing to drink?
Yes and no. A Smoothie King smoothie is probably not the way to go. Those often we talk about added sugar in there. So many of the smoothie restaurants, they will use a sugar base, like it's almost like Kool-Aid that they're used to sweeten the smoothie. And so a large smoothie may have 1,000 calories and 50 to 60 grams of sugar, which is way more than what you need or what you want. But if you're learning to make smoothies at home and you talk about stocking a kitchen, a home blender, if you can afford it, is really, really helpful. But learning to make smoothies at home without a lot of added sugar and with fresh fruits and frozen fruits can often be a healthy substitute. What you don't want to do also, though, is you don't want to be at home making smoothies and then having a smoothie in addition to a full regular meal, because that will also probably give you too many calories. But learning how to make them healthy at home and incorporating them into your diet is something that I certainly do, and I encourage some of my patients to do it as well.
What are your thoughts on kidney cleanses? It's a controversial subject.
They are. I think in the book I said the only thing they'll clean out is your wallet. Your kidneys are the cleaner. Okay, your kidneys are clearing out those toxins. Your kidneys do not need to be cleansed. They work very well on their own. Their job is to cleanse. They don't need to be cleansed. So don't do it.
Okay, uncovering hidden salt. What are some of the sources of hidden salt, and how do we avoid those?
Salt is, first of all, let me say that I love a little salt. I think really it pops the flavor of a lot of food. And so learning to cook with just a little bit of salt when you cook at home is important, because a lot of the salt that you get in your diet doesn't come from that little bit of salt that you put on the food that you cook, unless you're really a salt shaker lover there. But the salt is this that's you. Um, but the salt is hidden in things like prepared foods, canned vegetables, canned soups. And if you go out to eat at a restaurant, you're not going to get out of there without having a high salt meal. It's just about impossible. So you just have to know that going in. Going out to eat or eating foods from a can will give you much more salt than freshly made food at home.
Okay. Embracing plant-based eating. So we want to eat more vegetables. My question is, how do you cook vegetables? What's the best way to do it? Because your Uncle Jim will mess that up for sure.
So the simplest and the best way, I think, is if you learn to roast vegetables. And so this can be done for broccoli, cauliflower, squash, Brussels sprouts, kind of all of those things, potatoes. You cut them into little pieces. You put them with a little. You put them in a bowl. You rub them with a little bit of olive oil and maybe just a tiny pinch of salt, and then you roast them in the oven at 400 to 425 degrees on a baking sheet for about 15 to 20 minutes. You flip them once in the middle so they brown on both sides, but that will really give you a nice, easy way to get into vegetables. And if you make roasted vegetables, you can make extra and throw them in pastas or throw them in salads and use them throughout the week.
Okay. Getting potassium right. What foods are high in potassium, and why is maintaining a correct potassium level important to kidney patients? What is an acceptable lab range, for example?
So for most people who have kidney disease, we like that potassium to be somewhere between 4 and 5 is kind of the general rule, but anywhere from 3.5 up to maybe 5.3 or 5.4 is a good range for that potassium level. And things that are high in potassium are things like cooked leafy green vegetables, avocado, things like oranges and bananas and mango. So those are things that are high in potassium. And why it's so important is that people with different stages of kidney disease need different amounts of potassium. So if you're watching this and you have kidney disease, there may be two people out there with kidney disease. One has stage 3 kidney disease and one has stage 5 kidney disease. Those people with stage 3 kidney disease almost certainly need a high potassium diet most of the time. And those people with stage 5 kidney disease often need a low potassium diet. And so this is where those dietitians come into play, and really knowing your numbers and where you stand with kidney disease is so important, because if you don't need to limit those potassium foods, that means you shouldn't. So just because you have kidney disease doesn't mean you necessarily have to limit those things. I see people that are limiting things like tomatoes and bananas that they love, but they don't necessarily have to. And then there's people with really advanced kidney disease that do have to limit those things. And so for them, knowing which high potassium foods to avoid can help them stay off dialysis or avoid certain medicines. So knowing where you are is key to understanding your potassium needs.
Avoiding high protein pitfalls. One of the themes in that chapter that you write about is consulting with a dietitian to determine the ideal protein intake for your kidney and your body. Can you explain why that's important?
Sure. So protein, that was a hard chapter for me to write, because if you look at the recent guidelines, they recommend that everybody with kidney disease have between 0.6 and 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And that is less protein than most people eat. And so, if you go strictly by the guidelines, that's where you need to stay. But I see people who have diabetes or who have obesity who have learned to manage their sugars or manage their weight through a higher protein diet. And so for somebody out there who has multiple conditions, you don't necessarily want to throw them on a low protein diet because, they may not know how to do that and also manage their blood sugars, or they may go on that low protein diet and then all of a sudden they're eating a high carbohydrate diet and gain lots of weight back. So I think that the protein is really something that there are some generic guidelines, but working with a dietitian to figure out your protein needs. If you have wounds that are healing, you need a higher protein diet. Older people often need a higher protein diet. So there's that gets really specific and difficult to make a generic recommendation for people.
Okay. Discovering alkaline-rich foods. Why do alkaline-rich foods help the kidney, and what are the benefits?
So there's something out there called the alkaline diet, which in a lot of ways is a lot of nonsense. But when you look at the way the kidneys process these alkaline foods, and alkaline is that there's acid and alkaline, depending on what their pH is, and the kidneys, their job in the body is to keep the body's pH at a really tight, specific level. Your kidneys are just amazing at keeping the body right in this perfect pH level. And so when you eat a food, after it's broken down often into these extra acids. And if you eat foods that get broken down into a lot of acids, the kidneys have to do extra work to get rid of that acid to keep the body's pH right in that tight balance. And so if you're eating more alkaline foods, which is more basic foods, so things like a lot of fruits and vegetables fall on that alkaline level, then your kidneys really don't have to work quite as hard to keep that pH balanced. And that may kind of protect your kidneys a little bit for the long run. Now, that's a very, very simplistic explanation because the kidneys really are so complicated inside. But that's the gist of why things like the alkaline foods tend to be better for people than the acidic foods. And the acidic foods are often things like hard cheeses or organ meats and red meats and soda.
Okay. Identify and eliminating sneaky phosphorus. What are some of the sneaky sources of phosphorus? How do we identify them and eliminate them? I never heard of such a thing.
Okay, well, so just so I want to tell everybody. So these are all the different steps that are in my book. So we're going through the 10 steps here in the book. And so these, the sneaky phosphorus, and I know if there are people watching who are on dialysis or have kidney disease, that you cannot express your frustration enough with a dietitian or a doctor telling you that you need to get your phosphorus down and eat lower phosphorus diet, because that's one of the hardest things and really least understood things from a nephrologist and a dietitian standpoint. But phosphorus is often hidden in foods as a preservative. So if you look on the if you go into your pantry, and if you do this, or into your freezer, and you pick out a processed food, crackers or cookies, you can almost certainly read through the ingredients and you'll see an ingredient that either starts or ends with the letters PHOS. And that phosphorus that's used as a preservative gets absorbed 100% into your bloodstream when you eat it. And that can really quickly raise up your blood phosphorus levels and make it difficult to keep your phosphorus in the range that your doctor or dietitian is asking you to keep it in. And so, you may get guidance about avoiding certain cheeses or avoiding certain beans, but you may not have guidance to really look closely at those ingredients and look for those phosphorus additives that are building up in your blood.
Doc, I hear a lot about do the DASH diet, do the Mediterranean diet. Diabetics have a different diet. One of your mentions on your list of 10 is to integrate the DASH, Mediterranean, and diabetic diets into your routine. Why, as kidney patients, should we do that?
Well, both the DASH and the Mediterranean diet are the two best studied diets for managing high blood pressure. And not only does high blood pressure lead to kidney disease, but kidney disease leads to high blood pressure. And so the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet are very similar diets in that they focus on things like lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and fish, chicken, and much less in things like fast food and red meats. And I look at the similarities between the diets rather than the differences. And if you take a step back and you look at those diets, a lot of similarities regarding those fruits and vegetables and whole grains and things like that. And so the DASH and the Mediterranean diets are just really great examples of diets that are really good for people who are trying to eat in a way to manage their blood pressure and their kidney disease. And they've been studied with weight loss and diabetes control and even things like Alzheimer's. So I just love both of those diets.
Okay. The last point that you make is to keep an open mind if you start dialysis. In your book, you say, remember everything you were told about healthy eating when you had early stage kidney disease? Now you can forget most of that. Can you explain what you mean by that? That really rocked me when I read it.
Yeah, and it's definitely an overstatement, but it's very complicated sometimes for somebody who has really focused on a chronic kidney disease diet to then go on dialysis and have to change things because one of the biggest things is your protein levels change. So you go from eating a low protein diet to a high protein diet. Your potassium intake may change. When you have stage 5 kidney disease, you may be really limited on your potassium. But then if you end up on, say, peritoneal dialysis, you may be told to eat a higher potassium diet. And so I basically tell people that when they start on dialysis, let's start from scratch and let's build up a diet that works for your specific needs and your specific dialysis type.
So it has to be specific to the patient, the individual patient.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. That even if you go to a hemodialysis center, two people who are sitting next to each other, both getting hemodialysis, may have completely different dietary requirements and needs. So having a good dietitian that really can help you is so important.
Okay. Doc, what does the future hold for the kidney doctor? Any new projects, new shows you're going to be on, new videos, anything like that? What's going on?
Well, I hope to. So let me get through this book a little bit first. I would love to write another book. But I think for the near future, I want to continue to really get out there. And kidney disease is it doesn't get enough attention in the media. 1 in 3 people are at risk for kidney disease. 37 million people in the U.S. have kidney disease. 850 million people worldwide have kidney disease, and yet most people don't know about it. And so I want to use this book and my videos and the information that I have and my passion to really get out there and spread the word about kidney disease and the way that diet can help people manage their kidney disease and also help prevent people from ending up on dialysis. And so, I think that's where my focus is going to be over the next year, just continuing to create videos and content and promoting the book that really supports that passion.
The book again, in case people missed it. Okay. Standard question I've been asking all of my physician friends. What steps have you and your family been taking to protect yourselves from COVID-19? What kind of recommendation for kidney dialysis patients or transplant patients can you make concerning the vaccines?
So my family has been very, very careful since the pandemic started. We really we've taken it very seriously. I live in South Carolina, and not everybody in South Carolina has taken this pandemic very seriously. But my family really, we tend to stay home most of the time. If we go out anywhere, we wear masks, but we don't tend to go over to friend's house or anything. My parents live a couple miles away, and we see them outside with masks. So we've been very, very cautious over the course of the last year. Now I have my 2 vaccines in. I'm about 4 weeks out from that second vaccine, and so I'm thrilled about that. I feel very fortunate and lucky to have had that, and I'm recommending that we're trying to get all of the people that I see on dialysis access to that vaccine, because I think the vaccine is just a miracle, and I think that is really the key towards ending this pandemic. And if you have a kidney transplant, most of the recommendations from the Transplant Society and the National Kidney Foundation suggest that the benefit of getting the vaccine is greater than any risk. So getting COVID for somebody who is immunosuppressed or elderly or on dialysis can be very difficult. And so considering the vaccine and talking with your physician about the risks and benefits is so important. And if you have access to the vaccine, I would really consider, making a call to your physician and talking to them as quickly as possible so you can get their personal opinions about it. But my opinion and what I'm recommending to most of my patients when I talk to them is that the benefit of getting the vaccine is great. So I think if they're willing to do it, then I recommend that they do it.
Okay, last question, Doc. We're in the home stretch.
Okay.
Anything here that you wish to add that we haven't talked about tonight, that we haven't discussed? Is there anything that I missed that you think is important for the kidney community here on the show tonight?
I think we covered just about everything. Honestly, Jim, I think you got it all. I mean, I'm really happy to talk about this and to spread the word about food and kidney health. And if I had to say anything, is that the food that you eat can make a difference for you, whether you're at the very early stages of kidney disease, whether you're at risk for kidney disease, or whether you have end-stage kidney failure on dialysis or have a kidney transplant. Really, anywhere along that stretch, the food that you eat can make a difference in your health and longevity.
Dr. Blake Shusterman, thank you so much for coming out and talking to us tonight. I think that we learned a lot about cooking and kidney disease, and maybe your Uncle Jim will even go out and get a cutting board. So, all right, everyone, you have a good night. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Good night, everybody, and I'll see you again in a few weeks. Our friend Don Kowalski is going to be on with me. I'm trying to get our good buddy Steve Belcher to come on, and we're going to talk to Steve about his book. Okay, maybe a Tuesday special, who knows? And also our good friend Valen Kiefer. I've talked to her, and she wants to come back and try to do the show again. So hopefully We can get one of the greatest PKD kidney advocates of all time on our show very soon. So keep your fingers crossed for that. Keep your eye on this space, my friends. We'll talk soon. Have a good evening.